The orbital station hummed with the steady rhythm of 1,000 systems keeping humanity alive in the void. Commander Paul Drake stood at the observation deck, watching the distant blue marble of Earth rotate slowly beneath layers of defense grids and patrol ships. The war with the Kresh Collective had been raging for 15 years, and humanity was losing. Commander Drake. A small voice pulled him from his thoughts. Paul turned to find a girl, no more than 7 years old, staring up at him with wide brown eyes. She wore the standard gray coveralls of a station refugee, her dark hair pulled into 2 messy braids. Behind her, a harried-looking woman, probably her mother, was frantically searching the crowd. "Hey there, little one," Paul said, kneeling to her level. "Are you lost?" The girl shook her head firmly. "No, I found you." Paul couldn't help but smile. "Found me? Were you looking for me?" "Yes." She stepped closer, suddenly shy. "You saved us. When the Kresh attacked Colony 7. You carried me to the shuttle. I was scared, but you told me jokes." The memories surfaced. The burning colony, the screams, the desperate evacuation. He'd carried dozens of children that day, barely remembering their faces through the smoke and chaos. But he nodded. "I remember. You were very brave." "I wasn't brave. You were." The girl reached out and touched the medals on his chest with tiny fingers. "When I grow up, I will be your wife." Paul laughed, not mockingly, but with the gentle warmth of someone charmed by childhood innocence. "Is that so? That's quite a long time to wait for me." "I don't mind waiting," she said seriously. "You're a hero. Heroes deserve the best wives." Her mother finally spotted them, rushing over with apologies. As they left, the girl looked back and waved. Paul waved back, the moment already fading into the background noise of Warpoint. 15 years passed like a storm. The Kresh were relentless, their biomechanical fleets adapting to every human strategy. Earth's colonies fell one by one. Paul rose through the ranks, became humanity's shield, and paid for it in scars and sleepless nights. At 37, he was a legend, the man who held the line at Proxima Station, who led the counterattack at Epsilon Ridge, who never surrendered. But legends grew tired. Paul stood in the same observation deck, older now, grayer, watching the same Earth. The war had reached a stalemate, both sides too exhausted to press forward. He'd been called back to command the station's defense force, to train the next generation of soldiers. "Commander Drake." The voice was different now, confident, clear, carrying the authority of someone who'd earned their place. Paul turned out. A woman stood before him in the black and silver uniform of the Vanguard Corps, humanity's elite special operations unit. She was 22, her dark hair now cut short in military fashion, those same brown eyes sharp and assessing. The insignia on her shoulder marked her as a lieutenant, decorated with commendations that would make most veterans jealous. "Lieutenant." Paul glanced at her name tag, and his breath caught. "Isla Chun. You remember." A slight smile touched her lips. "I remember a little girl who made a promise," Paul said slowly, the memory crystallizing. "But I didn't expect that I'd keep it." Isla stepped forward, her posture perfect, professional. "I've spent 15 years keeping it, Commander. Every mission, every battle, every moment I thought I wouldn't survive, I kept it." Paul studied her. The reports he'd read about Lieutenant Chun were impressive. She'd graduated top of her class at the academy, specialized in zero-gravity combat, and led a squad that had successfully infiltrated a Kresh command ship and stolen their encryption codes. She'd turned the tide of 3 major engagements. She was, by every measure, extraordinary. "You became a soldier," Paul said. "I became what I needed to be." Islam met his gaze without flinching. "You told me once that heroes deserve the best wives. So I decided to become someone worthy of a hero." "Isla, I'm not that little girl anymore, Commander." Her voice was steady, certain. "I've killed Kresh commanders. I've walked through fire. I've held dying friends and made impossible choices. I did it all while carrying a promise I made to the man who saved my life." Paul felt something shift in his chest, surprise, admiration, and something dangerously close to hope. "Why tell me now?" "Because the war is ending," Isla said. "Intelligence suggests the Kresh are preparing for peace negotiations. And because I've spent 15 years becoming someone who could stand beside you as an equal, not just as a grateful child. I wanted you to see me, not as someone you saved, but as someone who could save you back." Silence stretched between them, filled only by the hum of the station. Paul had spent 15 years fighting, surviving, becoming the weapon humanity needed. He'd forgotten what it meant to be human, to want something beyond the next battle. But looking at Isla, strong, fierce, and absolutely serious, he remembered. "You've grown up," he said quietly. "I have." Isla took another step closer. "So, Commander Paul Drake, I'm 22 now. I'm a lieutenant in the Vanguard Corps. I've kept my promise. The question is, will you keep yours?" "I never promised anything," Paul pointed out, but he was smiling. "You laughed," Isla said. "And you didn't say no?" "In my 7-year-old mind, that was close enough." Paul laughed again, the same laugh from 15 years ago, but warmer now, more real. "You're absolutely insane." "I'm human," Isla corrected. "We do impossible things. We survive when we shouldn't. We keep promises made by children. We fight wars across the stars. And sometimes, we fall in love with our heroes and become heroes ourselves just to deserve them. That's the most human thing I've ever heard," Paul admitted. Isla extended her hand, not in a salute, but in an invitation. "So what do you say, Commander? Ready to find out what happens after the war?" Paul looked at her hand, at her face, at the future suddenly spread before him like starlight. He'd saved her once, 15 years ago. But standing here now, he realized she'd been saving him too, giving him something to believe in beyond duty and death that he took her hand. "Let's find out together, Lieutenant." Behind them, through the observation window, Earth continued to turn, and for the first time in 15 years, Paul Drake believed in tomorrow.